The ham was perfect. Golden brown, studded with cloves, glazed with honey and brown sugar, exactly the way Mom used to make it before she died. I'd spent 3 hours preparing it that morning, wanting everything to be just right for Easter dinner. My name is Caroline Mitchell, and this was supposed to be a good day. I'd arrived at Dad's house, the house I grew up in, at noon with the ham, homemade rolls, and a strawberry cake. My stepmother Diane had texted me a list of what to bring, which was fine. I always brought something. After Mom died 6 years ago and Dad remarried 2 years later, I'd become the unofficial caterer for every family gathering. Caroline, my half-brother Trevor, called as I struggled through the door with my arms full. He was 23, 5 years younger than me, and didn't move to help. "You're late. Diane's been asking about the ham." "I'm 10 minutes early," I said, checking my watch. "Help me with this?" He'd already turned back to his phone. I carried everything to the kitchen where Diane was arranging store-bought deviled eggs on a platter. She looked up, her eyes immediately going to the ham. "Is it done?" "It looks a little pale." "It's been cooking since 9 a.m., I said evenly. "It's perfect." She sniffed. "Well, we'll see." "Put it on the counter." "I hope it's not dry." This was normal. This was always how it was with Diane. Nothing I did was ever quite right, but not wrong enough to complain about openly. Just subtle digs, little comments designed to make me feel like I was perpetually falling short. My half-sister Brooklyn, 21, breezed into the kitchen in a pastel yellow dress that probably cost more than my car payment. "Oh good, Caroline's here. Did you bring the wine I asked for?" "You didn't ask me for wine," I said. "Yes, I did. I texted you Thursday." I pulled out my phone and scrolled through our messages. "You texted me asking if I was bringing wine." I said I was bringing ham, rolls, and dessert. "You never responded." She rolled her eyes. "Whatever. It's fine. I guess we'll make do." Make do. With the 3 bottles of wine I could see already on the counter. Dad emerged from his study, putting on his reading glasses. "Caroline. There's my girl." He hugged me, and for a moment, everything felt okay. This was my dad. The man who'd taught me to ride a bike, who'd stayed up all night with me when I had the flu, who'd walked me down the aisle at my wedding 4 years ago. My wedding that had ended in divorce 2 years later, but that was another story. "Happy Easter, Dad," I said. "You too, sweetheart. Everything looks great. You've really outdone yourself." Diane made a small noise in her throat. "Well, I did all the sides and the table setting. Caroline just brought the ham. And the rolls," I added quietly. "And dessert." "Right," Diane said dismissively. "Anyway, let's eat. I'm starving." We gathered around the dining room table, the same table where I'd eaten thousands of meals growing up, where Mom and I had done homework together, where Dad had told me Mom was sick. Now it was set with Diane's taste, pastel everything, fresh flowers, place cards with everyone's names in calligraphy. I found my seat. At the far end. Away from Dad, who sat at the head with Diane on his right and Trevor on his left. Brooklyn sat next to Trevor. I was at the opposite end, next to Diane's mother Carol, who was visiting for the holiday. We said grace. Dad carved the ham, which wasn't dry at all, not that anyone commented. Plates were filled. Conversation flowed around me, Trevor's new job, Brooklyn's spring break trip, Diane's garden plans. No one asked me anything. I was used to this. In the 4 years since Dad remarried, I'd gradually become background noise in my own family. I showed up, brought food, stayed quiet, and went home. But today felt different. There was a tension in the air I couldn't identify. Diane kept glancing at Dad. Trevor and Brooklyn exchanged looks. Something was coming. It came during dessert. I was serving my strawberry cake, Mom's recipe, the one she'd made for every Easter, when Dad cleared his throat. "So, Caroline, we need to talk about something." My stomach dropped. Okay. Diane and I have been discussing family dynamics, he began, not meeting my eyes. And we think it's time to be honest about something. Here it was. The thing I'd felt hovering all afternoon. You're not really part of this family, he said. The words hung in the air like smoke. I actually looked around, wondering if I'd misheard. What? Trevor jumped in, his voice casual like we were discussing the weather. Come on, Caroline. You had to know. You're from Dad's first marriage. We're his real family now. Real family, I repeated slowly. Blood family, Brooklyn clarified, stabbing a strawberry with her fork. No offense, but you're only related to Dad. Not to us, not really to this family unit we've built. Diane reached over and patted Dad's hand. We've all been tiptoeing around this for years. But it's time you understood your place. You're always welcome to visit, of course. But you're not, core family. Core family, I echoed, feeling like my brain was short-circuiting. It's nothing personal, Dad said, and he had the audacity to sound apologetic. But Trevor and Brooklyn are my children with Diane. This is our family now. You're from my past. Your mother was my past. Diane is my future, and these are our kids. I'm your kid, I whispered. I'm your daughter. Biologically, yes, Diane said. But family is more than biology, Caroline. It's about who you build your life with. And frankly, you've never really fit in here. You're always so quiet, so separate. You don't participate in family activities. I'm here for every holiday. Every birthday. I brought Easter dinner. You bring food, Trevor said with a shrug. That's not the same as being family. I looked at my father, waiting for him to say something. To tell them they were wrong. To defend me. He looked down at his plate. Dad? My voice cracked. Caroline, you're 28 years old. You're divorced, you have your own life. It's time to let go of this idea that you're still part of my daily life. I have a new family now. Other priorities. Something in my chest cracked open, a wound I didn't know I had. Other priorities, I repeated. Don't make this harder than it needs to be, Diane said, her voice dripping with false sympathy. We're not saying we don't care about you. We're just being realistic about boundaries. You're not our responsibility anymore. My hands were shaking. I set down my fork carefully, precisely, because if I wasn't careful I was going to throw it. So I'm not family, I said slowly. Not real family. Not core family. Just, what? A visitor? An extended family member, Dad said. Like a cousin. Someone we see occasionally but don't have daily obligations to. Trevor laughed. Actually laughed. Come on, Caroline. You had to see this coming. You're always so awkward at these things anyway. Maybe if you tried harder to fit in, Brooklyn added. But you're always so. I don't know. Separate. Separate. Because they'd built a wall around themselves and never let me in. I stood up. My chair scraped loudly against the floor. Where are you going? Diane asked. We haven't finished dessert. I need air, I managed. I walked to the kitchen on autopilot, my vision blurring. In the past hour, I'd been told I wasn't really family, that I didn't belong, that I was just someone from Dad's past he was obligated to tolerate. My phone was on the counter where I'd left it. I picked it up, opened my banking app, and stared at the screen. And that's when it hit me. The mortgage. 3 years ago, Dad had called me in a panic. He'd refinanced the house to pay off Diane's credit card debt and the payment was more than he could afford. Could I help? Just temporarily. Just until they got back on their feet. I'd said yes. Of course I'd said yes. He was my dad. So for 3 years, I'd been paying $2,400 a month toward the mortgage on the house I was no longer welcome in as real family. $2,400 a month. For 36 months. $86,400. I'd paid $86,400 to keep a roof over the heads of people who just told me I didn't belong. My hand steadied. A strange calm settled over me. I walked back into the dining room. Everyone was still eating cake. My cake. Made from my mother's recipe. In the house I was paying for. You know what's interesting? I said, my voice cutting through their conversation. They all looked at me. I held up my phone, showing them my banking app. I'd been paying Dad's mortgage for 3 years. Dad's face went white. Actually white. Caroline, he started. $2,400 every single month, I continued, my voice eerily calm. Since April 2021. That's 36 payments. A total of $86,400. Diane's mouth fell open. Trevor and Brooklyn looked confused. You said it was temporary, I said to Dad. You said just until you got back on your feet. That was 3 years ago. We were going to pay you back, Dad sputtered. When? You've bought 2 new cars in that time. Diane got a kitchen remodel. Trevor, you just came back from skiing in Colorado. Brooklyn, isn't that a new designer purse? Brooklyn's hand instinctively went to the bag hanging on her chair. A Gucci bag that cost more than 2 months of mortgage payments. We have expenses, Diane began. So do I. My voice rose. I work 50 hours a week at a job I hate to afford a tiny apartment and car payments and to send you $2,400 every month for a house where I'm apparently not real family. Caroline, you're taking this out of context, Dad tried. No. No, I'm really not. I was shaking now, but with rage, not fear. You just told me I'm not core family. That I'm like a cousin. An extended family member you see occasionally. We didn't mean. So why am I paying for core family's housing? I turned to Diane. Why is the outsider, the one from Dad's past, the one who doesn't really belong, why is she paying your mortgage? Silence. I'll tell you why, I continued. Because you're users. You've been using me for 3 years. Free money from the daughter you don't actually consider family. That's not fair, Trevor started. You just told me I'm not really your sister. I shouted. You said I'm not core family. So why am I core enough to pay your bills? Dad stood up. Caroline, calm down. You're being dramatic. Dramatic? I laughed, a harsh sound. I'm being realistic. Like you told me to be. About boundaries and responsibilities. I opened my banking app and pulled up the automatic payment screen. You said I'm not your responsibility anymore. Well, guess what? You're not mine either. I canceled the payment. Right there. With all of them watching. The screen confirmed, recurring payment canceled. What did you just do? Diane whispered. I stopped paying for a house I'm not welcome in as family. You can't do that. Trevor jumped up. We need that money. Then pay your own mortgage. Caroline. Dad's voice was shaking. You can't just, we'll lose the house. Then maybe you shouldn't have refinanced it to pay off Diane's shopping addiction. I grabbed my purse. Maybe you shouldn't have told your daughter she's not really family while she's been keeping you from foreclosure for 3 years. We'll pay you back, Dad tried again. No, you won't. You never planned to. You thought I'd just keep paying forever because I was desperate for you to love me. My voice broke. Well, congratulations. You finally made it clear that you don't. So I'm done. Caroline, please, Diane was crying now. Actual tears. We didn't mean it like that. Yes, you did. You meant every word. I'm not real family. I don't really belong. I'm from your past. I looked at my father. So stay in your present. Without my money. You're being selfish. Brooklyn shouted. You're going to make us homeless. I'm being realistic, I said, throwing her earlier words back at her. About boundaries. About who's responsible for what. You made it very clear I'm not family. So I'm not responsible for family expenses. I walked to the door. Dad followed me. Caroline, wait. Let's talk about this. We can work something out. I turned to face him. Do you think I'm family, Dad? Your real daughter? Not a visitor or a cousin or someone from your past. Your daughter. He opened his mouth. Closed it. Looked back at Diane. And said nothing. That's what I thought, I whispered. I left. I made it to my car before the tears came. 3 years. 3 years of $2,400 payments. 3 years of showing up to every holiday, every birthday, every family dinner. 3 years of trying to earn my place in a family that had decided I didn't have one. My phone started ringing before I even got home. Dad. Then Diane. Then Trevor. Then Brooklyn. I ignored all of them. When I got to my apartment, my tiny, one-bedroom apartment that I could barely afford because I'd been paying someone else's mortgage, I sat on my couch and just breathed. Then I did something I should have done years ago. I called my mom's sister, Aunt Rachel. She'd been distant since Mom died, saying she couldn't stand to watch Dad replace her sister so quickly. I defended him. Told her he deserved happiness. She answered on the second ring. Caroline? Aunt Rachel, I said, and my voice broke. I need to talk. I told her everything. Easter dinner. The not real family speech. The mortgage payments. All of it. When I finished, she was quiet for a long moment. Caroline, she finally said. Your mother had a life insurance policy. Did your father ever mention it? My blood ran cold. No. It was for $200,000. You were supposed to be the beneficiary. She told me she'd set it up that way after you graduated college. I never got anything. Then your father probably kept it. He was the policy holder. If he didn't update the beneficiary designation after you turned 18, the money would have gone to him by default. $200,000. Money Mom had left for me. Money that would have paid off my student loans, made a down payment on a house, given me financial security. Money Dad had never mentioned. Rachel, I whispered. What do I do? You do what you just did. You stop letting them use you. And Caroline? I'm so sorry I wasn't there for you these past few years. I was so angry at your father that I abandoned you too. That was wrong. It's okay. It's not okay. But I'm here now. If you need me. We talked for 2 more hours. About Mom. About family. About the fact that blood doesn't obligate you to tolerate abuse. When we hung up, my phone had 17 missed calls and 42 text messages. I read them while eating leftover Chinese food on my couch. Dad, we need to talk about this. You're being unreasonable. Diane, how could you do this to us? After everything we've done for you? Trevor, you're seriously going to make your own family homeless? That's messed up. Brooklyn, everyone's right about you. You were always selfish. And then, at 11 p.m., the message that made me laugh out loud. Dad, the April payment is due in 6 days. You need to pay it or we're going to be late. The audacity was breathtaking. I typed one message and sent it to all of them. You told me I'm not family. Family takes care of each other. Since I'm not family, I'm no longer taking care of you. Figure it out. Then I blocked all of their numbers. Part 2. I didn't sleep that night. I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, replaying every holiday, every dinner, Every moment over the past 4 years where I'd felt like an outsider in my own family. They'd been showing me all along. I just hadn't wanted to see it. The next morning, I called in sick to work, actually sick, emotionally devastated, and made an appointment with a lawyer. His name was David Chen, and he specialized in family law. I told him everything: the mortgage payments, Mom's life insurance, the verbal agreement that had never been put in writing. He listened, took notes, and then leaned back in his chair. "Caroline, I'm going to be straight with you. The mortgage payments are complicated. Without a written agreement, it's hard to prove it was a loan and not a gift. Your father could argue you were voluntarily helping." My stomach sank. "So I can't get that money back?" "You can try. We can send a demand letter requesting repayment of the $86,400 as a loan that's come due. But if they refuse, you'd have to sue, and it would be expensive and difficult." "What about my mom's life insurance?" He frowned. "That's trickier. If you were a minor when she died, and your father was the policy holder, he likely had legal right to the money. Unless you can prove she intended for it to go to you and he deliberately concealed it. So I'm just screwed." "Not screwed. But you need to be realistic about what's recoverable." He pulled out a form. "However, what you can do is protect yourself going forward. No more payments. Document everything. If they threaten you or harass you, keep records. They already are. Texts, calls. Save all of it. And Caroline? You did the right thing. Cutting off financial support to people who don't respect you isn't cruel. It's self-preservation." I left his office feeling simultaneously validated and defeated. I might never see that $86,000 again. But at least I wasn't giving them any more. The harassment escalated over the next week. Diane created a fake Facebook profile to message me. Trevor showed up at my apartment. I didn't answer. Brooklyn posted on Instagram about fake family members who abandon you when you need them most, without naming me directly. And Dad sent one email that almost broke me. "Caroline, your mother would be so disappointed in you. She raised you to be better than this. To take care of family. You're dishonoring her memory." I stared at that email for an hour, rage building. Then I responded. "Dad. Mom left me $200,000 in life insurance. Money she designated for my future. You never told me about it. You kept it. You used it to refinance the house with Diane. To pay off her debts. To fund a lifestyle for your new family while I struggled. Then you made me pay $2,400 a month for 3 years to keep that same house, the one you bought with my money. Don't you dare tell me what Mom would want. She wanted me to be secure. To be loved. To be treated like I mattered. You took her money and her daughter's dignity. Don't contact me again." He didn't respond. But 2 days later, I got a certified letter. From their lawyer. They were suing me for breach of verbal contract and unjust enrichment for the 3 years I'd lived in their house, ages 0 to 18, without paying rent. I actually laughed. It was so absurd I couldn't help it. I forwarded it to David Chen. He called me within an hour. "This is a frivolous lawsuit. They're trying to scare you into resuming payments. Don't respond directly to them. I'll handle it." Can they actually sue me for living with my own father as a child? They can file whatever they want. It'll get thrown out. But Caroline, this tells me something important. They're desperate. They can't afford the house without your payments. "Good," I said, and I meant it. The lawsuit was dismissed within 3 weeks. The judge apparently told their lawyer it was one of the most baseless claims he'd seen and warned them about filing frivolous suits. But the damage to our relationship, what was left of it, was complete. Through Aunt Rachel, I heard updates. Dad and Diane had tried to refinance again but were denied. They'd put the house on the market. Trevor had to get a second job. Brooklyn moved back home to save money. They were struggling. And I felt nothing. No guilt. No satisfaction. Just a hollow kind of relief. Then, 2 months after Easter, I got a text from an unknown number. Caroline, this is your father. I'm using Diane's phone since you blocked me. Please. We need to talk. I'm sorry. I stared at it for a long time. Then I blocked that number too. Because sorry wasn't enough. Sorry didn't give me back 3 years of payments. Sorry didn't undo being told I wasn't real family. Sorry didn't change the fact that when I'd needed them to choose me, to see me, to value me, they hadn't. A week later, Aunt Rachel called. Caroline, the house sold. Your father and Diane bought a condo. Much smaller, much cheaper. Good for them. There's something else. Your father's asking if he can give you back some of the money from the house sale. My heart jumped despite myself. How much? He said maybe $20,000. As a gesture of goodwill. $20,000 out of the $86,400 I'd paid. Less than a quarter. Tell him no, I said. Caroline. No. If he wants to apologize, if he wants to rebuild, it doesn't start with a token payment from money he had to pay anyway. It starts with acknowledging what he did. All of it. The life insurance, the mortgage payments, the way they treated me. Until he's willing to own that, I don't want his money. Rachel was quiet. Then, I'm proud of you. That made me cry. Because I couldn't remember the last time someone in my family had said they were proud of me. 3 months after Easter, I got a letter. Handwritten. From Dad. I almost threw it away without reading it. But curiosity won. Caroline. I've been in therapy. Diane and I both have. Separate and together. The therapist asked me to write down everything I did wrong. I've been writing for 3 weeks. The list is 7 pages long. I can't put all of it in this letter. But the worst things. I kept your mother's life insurance money. $200,000 that she wanted you to have. I used it for the house and told myself you'd inherit it eventually anyway. That was theft. I stole from my own daughter. I let you pay my mortgage for 3 years and never once said thank you properly. I just expected it. Like you owed it to me. I let Diane and your half-siblings treat you like an outsider. I saw it happening and I was too much of a coward to stop it because I wanted to keep the peace with my new family. I told you that you weren't real family. The moment those words left my mouth, I knew they were the worst thing I'd ever said. But I didn't take them back. I let them stand. Caroline, you are my daughter. My first child. The little girl who made me a father. You are not from my past. You are my present and my future, and I threw you away because it was easier than standing up for you. I don't expect forgiveness. I don't deserve it. But I want you to know, I see now what I did. And I'm sorry. Truly, completely sorry. If you ever want to talk, I'm here. But if you don't, I understand. I love you. I always have. I just forgot how to show it. Dad. I read it 5 times. Then I put it in a drawer and didn't respond. Because words were easy. Words were cheap. I needed to see if the actions matched. 6 months after Easter, Aunt Rachel called again. Your father wants to know if you'd meet him for coffee. Just him. No Diane, no Trevor, no Brooklyn. Just you and him. Why? He says he has something to give you. I thought about it for 3 days. Then I said yes. We met at a neutral coffee shop. He looked older. Grayer. Tired. Caroline, he said when I sat down. Thank you for coming. What do you want to give me? He slid an envelope across the table. I sold Mom's jewelry. The pieces Diane had been wearing. I got $47,000 for them. It's yours. It should have always been yours. I opened the envelope. A cashier's check. Made out to me. For $47,000. This doesn't make us even, he said quickly. I still owe you $39,400 from the mortgage payments. And there's no way to give back the life insurance money, it's gone. But this is a start. Proof that I'm trying. I looked at the check. Then at him. Did you tell Diane you were doing this? She was furious. She said that jewelry belonged to the family. I told her you are the family. My first family. And I chose you. You chose me, I repeated flatly. I know it's too little, too late. But yes. I chose you. I told Diane and the kids that if they can't respect you as my daughter, they don't get to benefit from my relationship with you. Period. What does that mean? It means I've set up a trust. When I die, everything goes to you. The condo, my retirement accounts, everything. Diane will have survivorship rights to the property, but after she's gone, it's all yours. I sat back, stunned. She agreed to this? No. We're separated. She moved in with her mother. The kids are furious with me. Trevor hasn't spoken to me in 2 weeks. You left them. I chose to prioritize my relationship with my daughter. After decades of doing the opposite. He met my eyes. I don't expect you to forgive me, Caroline. But I need you to know, I see now what I did. And I'm spending whatever time I have left trying to make it right. I looked at the check again. $47,000. Not enough to make up for everything. But enough to show he was serious. I need time, I said finally. Take all the time you need. And I need you to understand, this doesn't fix things. This doesn't mean we're okay. I know. But it's a start. His eyes filled with tears. Thank you. I took the check and left. I didn't deposit it right away. I kept it on my counter for a week, just looking at it, trying to figure out how I felt. Angry. Sad. Cautiously hopeful. Rachel helped me process it. You don't have to forgive him just because he's trying. But you can acknowledge the effort. Is that enough? Only you can answer that. In the end, I deposited the check. I used part of it to pay off my credit card debt I'd accumulated because I'd been paying Dad's mortgage. I put the rest in savings. And I agreed to meet Dad for coffee once a month. Just to talk. It wasn't reconciliation. Not yet. Maybe not ever. But it was something. 10 years after Easter, I sat at my kitchen table paying bills. The mortgage on my house, that I'd bought with my own money, was paid off. Completely. Fully owned. My phone buzzed. A text from Trevor, Caroline's first birthday party is next month. You're coming, right? Wouldn't miss it. Another text. From Dad, dinner Tuesday? My place? I'm attempting pot roast. I'll bring wine and a fire extinguisher. A third text. Brooklyn, I'm getting married next spring. I know it's early but I wanted to ask, would you be my maid of honor? I stared at that one for a long time. Then typed, I'd be honored. Because that's what healing looked like. Not forgetting the pain, but choosing to move forward anyway. Not pretending the past didn't happen, but refusing to let it define the future. Michael came into the kitchen, kissed the top of my head. You okay? Yeah, I said, and I meant it. I'm really okay. Thinking about Easter? Always. Every year around this time. Any regrets? I thought about it. Really thought about it. No, I said finally. Not about leaving. Not about setting boundaries. Not about making them face consequences for treating me like I didn't matter. But I'm glad some of them came back. I'm glad Dad did the work. I'm glad Trevor and Brooklyn are trying. Because walking away taught them what they'd lost. And that's what finally made them see me. He squeezed my shoulder. You taught them how to treat you. I did. And I had. By refusing to accept less than I deserved. By walking away from people who used me. By building a life so good that they finally understood what they'd thrown away. Some people never came back. Diane never apologized. Some extended family members still thought I was the villain. But I'd learned something crucial: their opinion of me wasn't my problem. My problem was making sure I never again sacrificed my well-being for people who wouldn't do the same for me. That Easter dinner 10 years ago had been the worst day of my life. But it had also been the beginning of my real life. The life where I valued myself. Set boundaries. Chose people who chose me back. And walking away from that table, from that house I'd been paying for, from that family who'd told me I didn't belong, had been the best decision I'd ever made. Because it taught me the most important lesson. You can't buy love with money or sacrifice or endless patience. Real love doesn't ask you to. Real love sees you, values you, chooses you, without you having to earn it every single day. And once you know that, once you really understand it, you never settle for less again. My name is Caroline Mitchell. 10 years ago, my father told me I wasn't real family. So I stopped paying his mortgage. And I built a real family instead. One that chose me back.